Great to see you here. My name is Luc de Koster, founder of the Koster Academy, and will be talking in this video about the creation of an effective procurement management. But before we start, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. So let's have a look at how we can improve procurement management. It's one of the main tasks of a project manager. So the project manager will in fact only use the processes prepared by the procurement department. Everything has been set up and all the ways, all the contracts, all the principles have been set up there. Now, as a project manager, you should understand how you can use that procurement or these procurement processes, and you will be able to contact the procurement team to order the items that you need. So, of course, there is the project procurement team. When you have very large projects, you can have a dedicated procurement manager, and that will be your contact to look at the principles of the procurement, how to deal with the procurement, and how to work with them. We also may have the element that in a fast-changing environment, we may have additional suppliers that pop up and that talk with you, that try to sell their services to you. Now, what is very important, if you have those suppliers, you have to send them to the procurement department because they will be taking into account all the agreements, they will look into the qualifications, they will look into the quality, and once they are added to the supplier list, you basically can use those suppliers. Not before. You have to be in that sellers list to be available for projects. If not, you can ask the procurement department, you can talk with them and see what the solutions are. It may be a good solution. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. Now, when we look at the procurement management strategy, it's very important to create a strategy. What will be the strategy that you will be using in your company to deal with procurement? And it's a very important step to manage procurements effectively. Now, there are 5 important steps when we look at the management strategy. First of all, we have to establish that strategy. That's the first element that we have to do. We have to create a directory of preferred vendors. We have to invite pre-qualified vendors to bids and manage the contracts. We have to adopt appropriate vendor management best practices and measure, track, and analyze procurement data. The first thing what we have here is the procurement management strategy. Now we have to define all the rules to follow when we conduct a procurement. All the steps that we have to do, the entire process has to be defined. Now when we look at the project management processes, we define this in the plan project procurement management. And this plan describes how we will deal with procurement. Now this document probably also refers to the procurement strategy of the company, and it can take most of the elements from there. What is the procurement strategy that is used in the company? What will we use and what is typically applicable on the project? The procurement plan maintains order and gives structure on how procurement operations will be handled, and it will help the project manager to get products and services from pre-approved vendors. And the advantage here is that those pre-approved vendors have a track record of good quality. So when they provide goods, we are sure that these goods are compliant with our requests. The next thing is about the directory of preferred vendors. Now, once you start with a company, it's very important to select vendors and screen them to integrate them in the preferred vendor directory. You have vendors, like me, my company. I was going to different companies, and I was screened. I was added to the vendors directory, and then people ordered courses because I was in the vendors list. People came there. Sometimes somebody said to me, yes, basically I'm the spy of the company. I'm just here to see that the course is going well. Don't worry, I wouldn't say that I'm the spy if the course was bad. So you have these things that happen, and it's very interesting. That helps, and it's let's say very good if you are on a preferred vendor list. Now, when we have the preferred vendors, we may also have alternatives, but it's also very important, since the vendors are already pre-approved, we can in fact integrate them a lot faster. We don't have to find a vendor, we don't have to go to the approval process, we don't have to integrate them in the procurement processes, because in larger companies what happens is that there are processes that are directly linked between the customer and the supplier, and this facilitates the entire operation of procurement. To select vendors, you have to define a set of criteria that every vendor must comply with. There can be a list, there may be financial parameters, quality parameters, references, things like that. And of course, this will be reviewed by a team, people who have the technical knowledge and people with the legal knowledge. They will see that everything is done accordingly. So everything will be tested, everything will be verified, contracts, clauses may have to be adjusted, and things like that. Now, when we have pre-qualified vendors and bidding, we can use the pre-qualified vendor list when we want to have a bid for a contract. We don't have to select other bidders, we can just select from the list, and we can send them a bidder's contract, and the people can in fact send their price for the goods or the services that have to be provided. It can be done using the classical RFP, request for price or proposal, or we can also have what we call bidding conferences. Once the supplier is in fact the best supplier, the contracts can be closed. There may be some predefined formats, so it's very easy on legal terms to create the final contracts for the products or the services. Now, the project manager will just order what is needed and follow up through the setup processes. So all the processes are there, and the project manager can send the request through the processes. It goes to the vendor, and when it comes back, they just can approve the things like that. It's very practical when you see this type of work, and the biggest advantage is that you only have to do the vetting of the supplier or the vendors once. Once they are selected, you just have to verify that they're still providing the goods and the services as agreed, that there are no problems, that there are no financial issues. But basically, you don't have to go through the entire vendor process, and it saves time and a lot of money. We can also consider some vendor management best practices. Now, we have to have a control and follow up. It's very important to implement regular controls to ensure that all is operated as planned. Without control, we don't know if let's say the vendors are still complying, that they're providing the goods as we order them. There are some elements that have to be or should be included. There can be others that you add. First of all, you have regular meetings for accountability with your supplier and review issues that may have arisen since the last meeting. There may have been some issues, right? Nobody is perfect. If you have a seller saying, oh, we are perfect, don't believe them, because either they're lying, or if they never had a problem, they probably don't have the processes to deal with the problems. When I'm asking with the companies, when I was doing the business with AT&T, people said, okay, problems can happen, but what are your processes? How you deal with the issues when they arise? How do you deal with them? What are the processes? And that's the main important thing that guarantees, in fact, the relationship. You also have to define a process to improve the relationship with the vendor. How can we improve it? What has to be done? In some cases, it's not possible, and you may just stop the relationship. You have to verify delivery and payments, looking at the milestones and, of course, the timing that it has to be delivered. And we also have to look at quality and cost. Are the products and the services like we agreed? Is the quality like we agreed? And so on. And then we have to implement quality control measures to facilitate a smooth procurement process. So we have to verify all these things when we are dealing with procurement. A lot of things to do. It's not as easy as it is. Procurement is rather complex. But since it's mostly done by the procurement department, you as a project manager may not always be aware of all the things that are happening. The last thing is about measuring, tracking, and analyzing data. We evaluate the process by measuring data. We have to have data to say, okay, these are the things that happen, what is happening with the contracts. We have to collect the representative data, delivery times, cost variances. We also have to see the quality. For example, when we have data lines, what are the technical specifications of the data lines, which could be this SLA that is offered. How good is the SLA? We have SLAs that the data line will be available for 98% of the time. Is that true? Is that not true? Things like that. Now we have to measure all these things. We have to track all these elements. And we, of course, have to define what we're going to measure and track before we start. Now, like I said, we look at delivery times, quality, cost, and other relevant parameters for the product that we are considering. We also can define key performance indicators or indices, which will provide the management of an overview of the procurement performance. A stoplight method will be very visible, a stoplight method where we have red, amber, and green. And basically, it shows the overall situation of procurement of a supplier, and we can go deeper into the details if we want to know more about the problems we had with that specific supplier. A stoplight system or the key performance indices or indicators are very interesting to have a macroscopic view based on microscopic data. All the data are in fact provided up to the management level so that you can very quickly see what is happening, where is the problem, and you can drill down to where the exact problem is, what has been done, and what still has to be done. So that was it related to the effective procurement management, how we can have an effective procurement management. That was the end of the video. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.